皆様こんばんは。今週も始まりましたCardano Radio。いや先週もほんとフィルの話がめちゃくちゃ面白かったですね。ちょっと僕も出しゃばっていっぱい話したので、できるだけ今回はね聞き手に回っていきたいなと思ってますね。本当にもう6月これからいっぱいね暖かくなっていろいろクリアリティアクトの件とかもありますのでね、なんかねカルダノだけじゃなくて、ブロックチェーンねクリプト全体が盛り上がっていけばいいなと思っております。じゃあ今週もここで読んでみましょう。 Thank you for coming back, Phil.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, last week, I should be the one that's listening to you and asking questions, but sorry, I was speaking like most of the part.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. No, it was great.
Yeah. So like I mentioned toward the end of last week, I would like to know like basically how you met Cardano, how you got involved, and how you started building everything you're doing right now.
Yeah. So at the time, I was finishing my master's in computer science. I was working at a programming language and assurance company where we basically did security work for different programming languages and a lot of programming language theory stuff. And I was very interested in building secure systems and in functional programming, which is just like it happened to be that Cardano was built on a foundation of functional programming. And when I was looking for jobs in that domain, there were a ton of posts at the time about Cardano. And I had a job already, and so I wasn't really ready to just go into crypto, but it made me interested in it. And this was before Plutus came out. All there was like a book about Plutus. And so I remember reading that book, and just in my free time, after work, I would do a little work to just learn about how to develop on Cardano and what Cardano enables. And yeah, I became very interested in sort of the mission and the ethos around it of, be your own bank and get rid of middlemen. And it really gripped me, right? I thought one of the biggest things was like that block, the Bitcoin block, which included the statement about banks, right? And then Cardano's mission of let's change it. Like if you've heard the motto for Google, right? Like don't be evil. That was originally in their founding documents, and they removed it. And Cardano's mission sort of became like, let's change don't be evil to can't be evil. And that really gripped me.
So that was around what time? Like about how many years ago? When
2021.
Oh, okay. So that's when you kind of started shifting into the crypto space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had used crypto before, but not really. Like I never developed in it or anything. I remember just like buying it as an investor and then selling it or wasting it away. At some point, I had like 3 or 4 Bitcoin that I wasted on something when I was a university student.
Well, if you have kept it now, that would have been a lot of money.
Yeah, that haunts me every day.
Yeah, I see. And then you got into building. So basically, when you switched from what you were doing before, what was like the first thing that you actually worked on the Cardano ecosystem?
Wing Riders, the decks on Cardano.
Okay, so that's where you started, and that's right now. That's where you are with doing a lot of the high tech stuff in the front end. So that's amazing. Like that was 2021 when you started, so it's only like about 5 years, right? And yeah, you're leading the ecosystem. So That's amazing. That's not something that's easy to do.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I never intended to make my own company, but I was getting a lot of freelance work. Like a lot of people were reaching out, being like, "Can you help me develop this dApp, etc.? Can you do an audit?" And I was doing this for a long time, and eventually I was getting more work than I personally could do. And so I started, reaching out to my friends and being like, "Hey, like, do you want to develop on Cardano? I have a ton of work, and I can't do all of it." And so, I brought them in to Anastasia Labs, and then it grew and grew and grew because it kept getting more and more work, and then eventually it was a company all of a sudden, and I was a CEO, and I never really intended to be that. It was just like, trying to do all the work that we were getting.
I see. Well, you never can really expect what happens to your life tomorrow. So, but that's big turnaround or change for you. But I mean, I'm glad you're here where you are right now to help the whole ecosystem. So I'm very thankful and glad for that.
Oh, thank you. Likewise, I really appreciate that the community has given me this opportunity, and that I'm able to do this kind of work, because I really enjoy it, and I'm very passionate about making Cardano succeed and making us competitive with other chains.
Alrighty. And one other thing that I kind of mentioned last week before the end of the program was like, after Charles mentioned about Japanese DREPs and you got to vote for this and this and that, and there were a lot of people saying, but both sides to every story, but it's a decentralized place, that he should not be talking about this and that, and that's kind of why Hicks and I decided to do X-Space, and where which you showed up, and basically first the title of the X-Space was in Japanese. So I was like, I need to make a nice clickbait. So I basically changed the title to Japan replies to Cardano, and I think that was a big success. So we brought a lot of crowd in and talked about it, and we were kind of mixing Japanese and English and vice versa. But I was so surprised that so many of the international people in the whole ecosystem are interested in the Japanese community.
Yeah, first off, the name change was brilliant. That was genius.
Thank you.
Because that, sometimes important things, a lot of the time in the ecosystem, doesn't get the eyes or the amount of attention it deserves, like the discussion that it deserves. And it's a comms problem. It's all about communication. And changing that name really was just like eye-catching. Everyone's like, I got to know what the Japanese community is saying. And so that was perfect. I'm really interested, and I'm very involved generally, and I speak like enough Japanese to have like a small conversations, and I understand a lot. And so I'm sure most people who don't have any involvement or ties to Japan are extremely curious. Like everyone I talk to in the ecosystem is very interested in the Japanese sort of how the voting power is distributed, what the Japanese DREPs believe is important, the types of things that they, what roadmap they envision for Cardano, etc.
Yeah, a lot of people were, saying that the space should have been recorded, but I don't know. We were kind of expecting to have like small talk and just chill out for an hour or two, but I don't know. It turned out it was one of the biggest, I think, Japanese spaces that has been taking place, and it ended up how long? 6 hours and 30 minutes. I don't know, and we had about 2,600 people showing up, so we were really surprised.
Yeah, it was a great space.
Yeah, but sometimes I get overexcited, so I'm glad. Some parts it was not recorded, but well, we're all human, so we get excited.
Of course,
so, yeah,
me too. Yeah,
but that was fun. But but one other thing that I was surprised was like I wouldn't want to say Charles haters, but people are doing the negative campaigns. We're also there, when we had the Japanese community replies. So it was, well, before he came, but we were able to. Nobody was talking crap about Cardano in general. So I was happy to like actually hear both sides of what they felt. Not like the propaganda stuff that they were doing on X posting, because I don't believe in that. Because for me, it's kind of nonsense. I mean, just putting negativity doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? So I was glad there was a time for like both sides, like because most of the Japanese people, me or Hicks, are kind of neutral, right? So we kind of want to listen to what they feel like too. And then they were so curious about all the tax issues in Japan and that and that. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you were there for quite a long time too. And like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it was a really good space. I learned a lot. I learned a lot, especially about your posts with respect to like where the voting power is, and that a lot of the Japanese community sort of didn't even really want the mandate or the authority that they were given. Right? It's not like they asked for this. Right? It's just governance was delivered, and there's a lot of people who, as you said, are older and they don't really want to be involved in the voting process because they don't really have the relevant, they're not spending all their time learning about Cardano and like, interested in actually voting on the roadmap and proposals and things. And also I was super interested in the tax stuff because this is something that I've known about, and I've known about sort of the proposed tax changes, right? Which I think are set to happen in the near future, right?
Yeah. So basically, it was originally supposed to take place in 2026, but it got kind of pushed aside because that was not like the main interest of the Japanese, politicians, government in general. But I'm really thinking like if the Clarity Act goes through and if Trump starts really pushing it and if it goes into the right direction, because SBI Holdings, one of the Japanese biggest banks and stuff, are trying to use XRP and do the ETFs at the moment, and they're really pushing it. So I think it could change. And like Hicks was saying the other day, like a lot of the initial like first buyers of the Cardano from the ICOs, right? They really can't do anything because even if they stake it, they get taxed, right? So they just have to hold it until the things get much better. So I really
they get taxed even just delegating to stake pools?
If they get returns, right? That's going to be a tax issue too. So
but do they get taxed only on the returns, or is it like the US dollar value of those returns? Or
well, I have to check the details, but either way, they don't really know what's going to happen to like the details of the cryptos. Because basically they're saying 50 to 55% will be taxed. So if you get 55% tax, then you're going to lose money even if you make money, right? So
right.
And there's not too much history of it, so that's probably why people are afraid to even move it. But I really think, like I said a little while ago about the Clarity Act, and if the States really pushes it and it becomes more on the mainstream, as Japan follows whatever the States does, right? So they should probably move it from 2028 to hopefully early 2027. And if the tax rate drops to somewhere in the neighborhood of like 18 to 24%, I think there will be a lot more people getting involved.
Yeah, that's great news. Yeah. So can you give me like an overview of the Japanese landscape around like DeFi or using apps on Cardano? Or as you said earlier, right, like the Japanese, one of the banks was planning on using XRP. How is Cardano currently received in the Japanese crypto space? Is it still like one of the bigger assets in the Japanese space, or is there like a big XRP presence or a big Ethereum presence?
Well, there are some movements on Ethereum as well, but to be honest, like the initial holders are still holding it, and they're not really, like I said, moving it much, right? And for example, do you hear anything on the mainstream news about Cardano? No, but when they release, the midnight thing, the selective disclosure and everything, people are really starting to understand, and a lot of people are really promoting it right now, right, in Japan too. So in that term, Cardano as a whole ecosystem is having a little bit more fame than before. That's what I think. But the thing is, like even in Japan, I don't know if it's really connected to the people trolling in the other side, but a lot of people. I don't know if this is like the X community thing. Just talking crap and saying it's gonna go down to zero, and I mean a lot of useless information, and nobody puts in the good side. But what I believe was back in, was it 2021 or two? I don't remember. But when the NFTs were really big back then. Yeah, and BTC side, and even all the crypto side was kind of popular, but like lot of scams happened, right? And even in Japan, they had like a Japanese coin that they promoted, and they kind of disappeared, and that happened like 2 or 3 times. And I forgot the name of the company that kind of was promoting, was it Bitcoin all over the world, but they kind of disappeared with a Brazilian guy at the top. He was like,
the BitConnect.
Yeah, it was a BitConnect, and there was another one, USI or something, USI Tech, I forgot.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of got screwed over with that one, and it was my friend that kind of introduced me to that. But since then, I never trust people. But
right.
Yeah, but nobody has done.
Is there like a special connection for the Japanese community to Cardano, or because a lot of people view Cardano outside of Japan, they view it as the Japan coin, right? They view it as like, that the ICO happened in Japan. There's all the Japanese holders, etc. Yeah. Did the Japanese holders view it that way, or?
Well, I personally will put a big question mark on that, because Charles did a good job coming and partnering with the people here and spreading it to Japan, and of course his fans and his followers and investors will come to his keynotes or whatever if he's in Japan for, if it's midnight or and he even came for the Cardano year before, and they come. But I wouldn't say that we have increased the amount of holders for Cardano. For example, I did the Catalyst 14 for the first time, and I'm kind of a bit late on my milestone, so I got to really do that. But we set up a booth for the jazz festivals, and there's another one coming up in October. But we made the handing out papers, and what we did was we want them to onboard. So I made like we were talking about there's a WhatsApp kind of app, like it's called Line, and we were talking about that in the X Spaces.
Line yeah,
so and what I did was I created the Line stickers, and I kind of didn't make it in time, so I kind of gave them the QR code, and we trained like 5 people to like talk about Cardano. We had a small booth, and what we did was we tried to like onboard them with the wallets, and people made the wallets, but we still can't find them having the transaction. So because unless they have a transaction, you can't really see when they made the wallet and what happens to it, right? Because it wouldn't be on the blockchain.
Right.
So I don't know what I'm going to write yet on the milestone, but I don't know, like not too many people seem interested. Not only in Cardano, but like crypto in general right now, because Bitcoin is going down right now, and like they think of crypto as Bitcoin, and most people don't even know Ethereum at the moment too, right?
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, some people might say that I'm wrong, but this is my perspective. That's what I think. And like you mentioned about people thinking about Cardano as a Japan-made coin, and yes, it was made in Osaka, so I would call it an Osaka coin basically, because that's where it started. So, but from there, I don't see like I don't say like so many people left Cardano, but we don't see like so many people onboarding Cardano at the same time, because the initial big holders are still holding it, and they're not even doing much. That has to do a lot with taxes, as I mentioned too, but I don't see a lot of young people onboarding it. And
I see. So it's mostly like there is a community, from what you're saying, that exists from the initial distribution, but it really hasn't grown since then in Japan. It's mostly like there's still a Japan Cardano community, but it's mostly the same size, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, true. And like for the SPOs, BT at BF, he did a good job making the sites and everything. But right now that's kind of diversifying in a good way, because other people are making like manuals for the new NOS and everything. So that's good too. But one other thing is like the closed chats. are kind of controlled by like the top D reps, and they're kind of keeping it there. And um, I'm not in there anymore. So, but what I hear from the other members are we're not seeing drastic increase of the members coming onboarding that line community as well, the Cardano room, if I would call it. So I don't know. I really want a lot of more young peoples to on board. So, and like I said, I have another event coming up in joining in October. So next time I'll try to think wiser and find out better ways to onboard the people, because I think just by saying I'll give you 100 ADAs, please make a wallet, doesn't make sense, right? If they're not interested, they're not interested. So I got to find a way, or keywords, or midnight is a nice key part right now with the selective disclosure and everything, but that is yes Cardano ecosystem, but it's like a partner chain, right? So it's a tough call right now in Japan. I don't know. I'm not sure about even in the States or Europe, or like if a lot of people are onboarding too. But in Japan, I think it's plus minus. Like most people, or I don't know, maybe 20-30% of the the ecosystem in Japan have sold what they had. That's what I heard recently. So I think it could have decreased, but I'm sorry, I don't have all the statistics here, so I can't really say that I know everything.
No, it's good. I think your general subjective assessment is a good indicator of what probably has happened, and so that makes a lot of sense to me. I think in the States and it really, and in Europe, I think what I've seen so far is adoption really shifts with price action.
True.
And so in a bear market, we don't really we have very little onboarding and very little new engagement.
Yeah.
And then when the coins all pump, and then they go on like major news outlets or talking about, look how high Bitcoin is now. Then all of a sudden you get tons of people in crypto, which it's kind of unfortunate, because what this means is that when retail happens to buy crypto, it's almost always at the top of the cycle, because they buy it because they hear about it on the news and how much money it increased in value. And then they're like, oh, wow, well, I heard about Bitcoin like 3 years ago, and I just saw on the news it's like the highest it's ever been. So, I'm going to go buy some crypto now. And then, obviously when you buy it, because it's at the top, it's all over the news and stuff, that's when it goes, then it goes down, and then you have a bear cycle, and then it's not in the news and no one's buying, and then the thing repeats. And so what often happens is that the retail users' first experience in crypto is as an investment, right? They're not buying Cardano to use something. Yeah. They're buying it because, the price will go up, or they're buying Bitcoin for the same reason. And then the price goes down, right? Because they bought it at the top of the cycle when it's all over the news. And then they're like, well, this sucks and I'm never doing this again, right? And then this repeats itself over and over, right? It's just like every time it pumps, it goes on the news, more people buy in, and then, they bought in at the top of the cycle, it goes down, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and like you were saying right now, the tax issue in Japan. Probably if the tax was much lower when they had their all-time high of Cardano, I think a lot of Japanese initial investors would have sold it, because it went pretty high, right? And for Japanese people, where they bought it at so cheap, they were buying chunks, right? So they probably didn't expect first for Cardano to go that high. ADA to go that high, right? But they couldn't sell it due to tax. Some people probably did sell it, but like I always say, the tax issues are kind of strangling people in Japan.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. We really need to shift from a market where it's like right now the incentive is, you're buying it. Most people are buying crypto as an investment, right? They're buying either Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano as an investment, and then they're not buying it to actually use it.
Yeah.
Like which is a problem, because if everyone is buying it as an investment and no one is using it, then the investment will never increase in value. There's no utilization. There's no market. And this is where I'm very interested in like the application side, because if you look at the things that have achieved like a market success in crypto, right? It are things where the L1 token is not the investment vehicle. Like, you buy, there's like the Hyper Liquid, or there's like Aave or whatever. It's like, you don't buy Ethereum and then just like hold Ethereum, right? You buy it and then you use Ethereum on like Aave or Morpho or something. And that's the investment vehicle, right? So you're actually using the chain to invest. If you want to invest in blockchain, you actually have to use the chain. I think Cardano doesn't really have this. It's really struggled to compete in that market. The ethos is more like, this is the long-term, as opposed to like Ethereum, where it's like, ETH is just the on-ramp to all the financial instruments. For Cardano, the user story tends to be Cardano is the investment vehicle itself. And you just buy Cardano and you hold it, and then it'll go up because it's like, academic research and thoroughly backed and all of this stuff, which is all great. But if that's the end of the story, right? If the end of the user story is they just buy ADA and hold it in a wallet forever, then we can't really get adoption or success. We need things for people to use the ADA on, whether it's investment vehicles where they use it to invest and make money, or whether they have applications like the music stuff where they can buy or sell music, or it's something we really have to start competing in, the ad market.
Yeah, true. So maybe for the next episode we can talk about that.
yeah Sounds great.
Alright, so let me just tell the Japanese community. こんな感じで2週目もすごく熱くお届けしました。また来週もね、同じ時間同じ場所でお会いしたいと思います。Alright, thanks for coming back, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Phil.
来週お話ししましょう。
Come and just decentralized. Decks are trading, pools stay deep. Stake, delegate, rewards to keep. Midnight with us, protecting the right. Privacy balance with laws in sight. Identity verified, freedom intact.